came to be on this path and how I chose to be a healer. So I figured I would answer that question here for you guys. My name is Kat Rambo. I am a full-time professional medicine woman. I use this title because it's sort of a catch-all for a lot of things. I'm a seer, I do dream work, I do human potential, craft magic, and also I work with shamanic sacred medicines. So that is the path that I'm in now. I do a lot of spiritual guidance and coaching. How did I get there? So I grew up in an environment that encouraged diversity and spirituality. My father and mother came from New Orleans, so one was Methodist and one was Presbyterian, but also a witch. We grew up with a little bit of voodoo and root work. There's a lot of still indigenous culture in those roots too. So I grew up exposed to it. I did go through a period of time where I was a proselytizing atheist, and that's not really true. I was seeking higher meaning through science. I studied quantum mechanics in university. I took 3 years of calculus before I got out of high school. I wanted to be at the cusp of human knowledge and understanding, and I realized that the deeper I got in, it was fewer questions of math and more questions of consciousness. I had at that point already become obsessed with NLP, hypnosis, anything related to human consciousness and potential, right? Possibility. Spirituality returned in my life, and in a different type of way, I began exploring again different cultures and different traditions, and getting as far as I could with each of these. I was equally to be found in a synagogue as I was a church, as I was at a misa espiritual, as I was at a Hindu temple. And I was constantly diving myself into whatever practice I thought would help me explore what that meant to me. I was very convinced that I was not intuitive, that I was somehow missing something, that I wasn't lucky. And in this process, I learned that our only limitations and blocks are the ones that we entertain, and that we're all capable of learning psychic skills, that we're all capable of learning deep spiritual fulfillment and connection, and aptitude isn't a gift, it's a skill, and we can all exercise and learn it. And I dove into every possible way there was to learn it. And then there came a period of my life where I decided I really wanted to pursue that more exclusively. I wasn't very fulfilled in anything else that I was doing. I knew that this is what I really wanted. I knew that I had learned a lot and that I wanted to share. I had been asked a lot for energy work and these other things, so I thought, okay, maybe I can do this on the side. And I felt this deep need to be committed to it, and yet I was still entertaining other things. After all, that's not a real job, as I was reminded regularly. And then I had a moment in my life where it seemed like everything was taken away from me. I seemed like I lost everything, and got into a bad car crash, lost the partner I was supposed to be with, lost my job, like very quickly, lost all my clients, like lost everything that I thought I had of value, and so I did something I had never tried before, which is sitting still. And I prayed and I said, whatever it is that comes, it is what I will do, because I had worked so hard and I had been left with nothing. And I had lost more than I thought I had to lose. And while I was banged up, laying in bed, and couldn't really do much else, I started laughing with gratitude and realized the truth of what had happened. I had been given a fresh start. And so I said, all right, whatever comes, this is what I will do. I will follow it. Doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what my judgments, doesn't matter any of it. I'll just do it. And sure enough, immediately, it all sprang up in my life. And I realized that anything that I'd learned and been obsessed with personally became useful, and all of my variety of interests and skills had become lumped into one basket. And suddenly I knew what I was supposed to do, and I was very quickly guided on this path. And every time I've tried to deviate for one reason or another, I was asked to work in a real estate office for a while, and the moment I considered it, things seemed to sort of shake up and fall apart, and I realized I have to stay on this path. And it's not just because I was clearly guided to it, it's that I know it is what makes me happy, and I know that I'm good at it. And I've reached a point in my life now where I can say, I know that I'm good at it. There's always more to learn. And my obsession with perpetually being a student, I think, is what brings me more and more to be able to share. And now my obsession is to share and continue to learn and continue to discover, continue to explore, continue to evolve, and to share everything that I've gained along the way. So yes, it was a decision. It's a decision every day. But it is also not really a choice. It was sort of given to me by a lifetime of weird opportunities and bizarre turns of fate and dreams and all of it. And it came to be one beautiful life that I'm so grateful for. And uh, whatever it is that you dream for, if someone tells you that's not a real job, ignore them. Live through your passions, share what you love, and whatever it is that you're truly passionate about and really good at, then that's really where your gifts lie, and that's where you're going to thrive. And allow yourself to thrive. And so I hope this answers that question. I love you all very much, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye. Okay, I've been told to add examples. So, for example, when I was young, my father was Methodist, but he was also a tax accountant. And as it turns out, everybody needs their taxes done. So we would have swamis in the office from the Swami temple. And I remember one time one came all dressed in his robes, just come from temple, and very cool dude. And of course, there's my father telling me, 10-year-old, come meet this interesting person. So I would go into the office, I'm 10, 12, something, I don't know. And the Swami turned to me and I said, what's something that, I can learn? And he says, something I never forgot. He says, religion is like chicken. Pass that by me again, chicken. And he says, it doesn't matter if you like it fried or broiled or baked or roasted. It does not matter. What matters most is that you have chicken, that you have something in your life that nourishes you. That's the most important part. And I took that as advice to explore freely whatever it is that I thought would be interesting. I got involved with sacred medicines. I got very deeply involved with yoga, but everything I did all the way. When I got involved with yoga, I didn't just learn the asana. I read all the sutra. When I got involved with herbalism, it wasn't just what plant does what thing. It was also physiology, also Ayurvedic spirituality of plant, connection with the body. Everything I could get into, I did it so fully. My obsession with dream work actually came from a young age because I was tortured with horrible nightmares constantly. I would refuse to sleep for days because I'd be so exhausted because I didn't want to face the world behind my closed eyes. And I decided, I had turned to cannabis, I turned to other ways they had started medicating me to get me to sleep, cause all kinds of other problems. And then one day I said, you know what, enough is enough. Let me just face this head on and deal with it. And I realized that I was actually given an awesome gift, that having to face horrible dreams, they'd actually been calling my attention. They were so awful in order to attract my attention, and I needed a loud message at the time. And so I learned everything there was to know about dreaming, everything from ancient rituals and practices from around the world to modern neuroscience, whatever it is to help me understand it. And constantly I'm learning. And then I realized being really good at dreams and understanding, interpreting visionary states when I got involved with meditation and sacred medicines and visionary states therein, that I was naturally good at it because I had obsessed myself with learning everything there was to know about dreams. And it happened not because of an idle curiosity, but because I needed to help myself. That the call to healing is always first a call to heal self. And I reached a certain point where I didn't really have any more triggers. Things didn't really upset me. I went through hard things, but I was okay. And I realized that I had reached a certain level of proficiency and personal ownership in my life over my mind and my emotions and mastery, that it was time to share. So I learned to teach and I learned to share, and I learned to give. So it was a gift to be able to give that. And even my interest in herbalism, though it was there all along, I didn't become that serious about it until I ended up with a health issue that I had to resolve. And I resolved it, and I became very inspired. And then spontaneously, out of nowhere, people were asking me to help resolve their health issues, and I realized I could do that. So life gave me the direction, even when I wasn't aware to listen to it. And sometimes it felt horrible, but it was actually always a big gift. So I hope that you can look at your challenges in your life and see what you've overcome, and realize that how you've overcome these things and what you've learned along the way is actually your big gifts, and what it is that you have to share, because we all go through things, and what will you do with those difficulties? Will you allow them to traumatize you and trigger you for the rest of your life? Or will you leverage them as an opportunity to grow yourself, share and understand and be compassionate with others, to know that we all go through something and we all have different experiences in that. And sometimes the random odd things that you're into actually do all fit in one place. I thought I was in between, that, my family was in New Orleans, but I grew up in Florida, two different cultures completely, and I was sort of in between Even when I was very young, I would tell my mother, I just want to go home. I want to go home. And she would say, you are home. You are home. And I never felt at home, no matter where I was. I had a hard time, getting along with people in Florida and with my Cajun culture in Louisiana. I was only there sometimes. So, sort of in between places. And I was discovered that my home is in the in-between spaces. That's what shamanism is being between in between dimensions. And that's where excellence is, in between hardship and aptitude. And that's where hope is, in between the old and the new. And that's where the visionary states are, in between being awake and being asleep. That I love to exist in the in-between spaces, and everything that I thought which was made me weird or broken or damaged is actually what makes me really good at what I do. And they gave me all kinds of alphabet soup: ADHD, autism spectrum, whatever they could throw at someone who was having a hard time coping. And turns out my inability to function according to a proper timeline is a gift, because outside of time and the limitations of space, I can see many things in different timelines, in different spaces. And so whatever it is that you're told your limitations are, perhaps those are actually your strengths when learned to leverage properly. And I love to teach this now. You can learn psychic skills, you can learn intuition, you can learn all kinds of interesting things if you allow your natural aptitude to shine, and also just give it a go and try, and be committed. I've become so entirely committed, focused, and obsessed on becoming good at what it is that I do, that I have discovered all along the way I've been given gifts and never really understood them until I allowed for myself to be different. I allowed for myself to be not quite normal, not quite right. And it's a wonderful thing. And I think a lot of us feel like we don't really fit in. So you can find a place to fit in, or you can make your own place where you fit in, wherever it is you feel like you are. And that can be good enough. And now I meet people who tell me things like, oh my goodness, you're so amazing. You must be so gifted. And I don't know if that's really true or not. I think I felt like I had to overcome something. And so that gave me the gift. But also, I did have little gifts along the way. So maybe that's some good examples. What else? Leave me a comment and let me know if you have any questions about why I specialize in what I do, or what it is that attracts me to the type of work that I'm in, or how I got here. I think the interest in shamanic practices and healing is very popular right now. When I got into it, it wasn't really. The people around me told me that I was crazy. And good for them. Apparently I'm right on trend now. But I've been in this environment for a really long time, and in the full-time capacity as well. So if you're not really sure what you should be doing with yourself, maybe there's something out there that is perfect for you if you forge your own path and make your own way. And even in the community of healers, I find myself a little bit different. But this is a good thing. It's why I'm good at what I do. And I've been blessed to meet amazing teachers along the way. And as they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And it was true when I decided to give up the things that I thought were true and accept that I didn't know anything. I was so educated and knew nothing. And I was so smart and so lost. And as soon as I was willing to admit that to myself truly and deeply, and sit still and just allow, then amazing things sprung forth, and it became painfully obvious what it is that I had clearly been missing all along, which was just noticing what was always there for me, no matter what. And now I live my life out of sharing what it is that I love for me, which is amazing. I hope that you can turn your challenges and your passions into a beautiful life for yourself, because they are part of your unique story and what make you you. I hope this helps. Bye. Okay, last question. How did I get into sacred medicines? Well, that kind of found me also. I'd become interested in it. I had experimented with psilocybin, and I knew that there was more to it than simply partying or having fun. And I remember my friends one time came to me and they said, Kat, why don't you come, take some mushrooms with us? And I said, no, I'm studying for exams. I got papers everywhere. Can't you see this? And they were still standing in my doorway. And I said, what do you want? And they said, come on, let's do it. And I said, no, I'm busy. I already told you. Why me? Go have fun by yourselves. And I go to the park. And they said, well, it's just because when it's with you, it's different. I feel like, when it's with you, we always learn something about life. It's just different. Come do it with us. And I realized that maybe there was something I was doing that was different, because I didn't feel like I knew anything special. I just did what and said whatever the mushrooms told me to. I know that kind of sounds silly, but I guess it was working. And to this day, I love this beautiful medicine. I've been lucky to live in places where this is acceptable. And with ayahuasca, when I started getting involved with ayahuasca, I don't know how I had heard about it. It was a long time ago, and weren't exactly a whole lot of documentaries about it at the time. So I don't know how I had even heard about it, but I was into plants, I was into gardening, I was already an herbalist, So it was a natural extension. Let's continue to explore and expand in this, and plants for consciousness are great. So I'd already been exploring with neurogenetics, which are plants to help you dream, and other substances that'll help you dream better. So in my dream work obsession. So I was actually on my phone looking for a plant, and I thought if I could get a plant and put it in the yard, then I could talk to it, which I didn't realize was actually exactly what you're supposed to do. But it was hard to find. They're very expensive, and I couldn't find one anywhere. And then my maestra called me, actually, and a great teacher and my friend, and I hadn't spoken to her in some time, and she said to me, "Hey, have you ever heard ayahuasca?" And I'm looking at my phone like, I mean, do you know where I can get a plant now that you mention it? And she's like, "I'll do you one better. Why don't you come to ceremony?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm in, but also, where can I get a plant?" And that started a whole new adventure. And then with kambo, I'm very passionate about kambo, which is still legal in most places. I had actually had a lot of dreams about it. I didn't know what it was. I hadn't heard of it. And I remember one time I was actually at an ayahuasca event, and I had been asked, "I have kambo. Do you want kambo?" And I said, "Oh, well, that's the frog thing, isn't it?" And I was responded with, "Yeah, of course. You know all about it." And I said, No, I've never heard of it. I don't want that at all." Because I had dreamed about it, and I knew what it was as soon as I heard the name. And I dreamed about it a lot, and I actually avoided it for a really long time. It followed me around, and I was constantly asked if I wanted it, and I constantly said no, because I knew I would need to be somewhere where I was fully committed just with this medicine, not in the course of another ceremony or something else. Eventually, I was asked, "We're doing kambo, you want to come?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And I was trying with my, at the time, crappy Spanish to talk to this Amazonian healer who had come up to give us service, and I didn't realize he was Brazilian. He spoke Portuguese, but we did our best. And my Portuguese is still terrible. And he said to me, "You have a really good connection with this medicine." At the time, I didn't understand this. So I'm like, "Yeah, right. You don't even know who I am. You don't know my name. Like, you don't know this." And I said, okay. And we go, and he gives me my points, and he looks at me, and he hadn't even applied the points, and he says, "You have a really good connection with this medicine." I'm like, "You don't know me. How do you know that?" And I didn't understand at the time. And then I had a phenomenal experience. I was extremely intense. I had full visions. And after 3 days, I was still frog-faced, puffy, and tripping. And even with hallucinogens, I really didn't have visions. So not a lot anyway, not at first. So this was very unsettling and made me wonder, like, how can I go back to work like this? And so I called and I asked him, "How is this normal?" And he says, "No, not at all." And I said, "Okay, well, how do I deal with it?" And he said, "I already told you." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "You have a strong connection with this medicine. You need to come to the Amazon and train." And I'm like, "Okay, great. But in the meantime, right now, how do I go back to work?" So for me, Akambo was extremely emotional and spiritual and energetic and awesome, more than just physical. And now it's not hallucinogenic at all. But a lot of my clients will have, I did eventually train and learn and grow in it. And a lot of my clients actually have visions. I usually don't tell them that because I don't want to plant that idea, but it does happen organically anyway. And I think it's because I have visions, and I always experience some beautiful emotional or spiritual thing. And I think that's because that's what it is for me. Yeah. Let's see what else. I think those are the medicines that I love the most, when I have lived in places where that was acceptable. I've also worked with Bufo, same thing. I was offered it, and I rejected it. And then finally I met someone that I just knew something special about her. And I asked, "What do you do?" And she says, "Well, I've served ayahuasca in the past, but I don't serve anymore." And I'm like, "Something else?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I work with Bufo." And I'm like, You're the one, I just knew it." And since then I've been learning a lot and working with Bufo also. I think it becomes very clear, you learn these things. I think it's a common misperception that when you're told you should work with a medicine, which happens a lot actually with ayahuasca visions. Ayahuasca's a vine. It will creep into every corner of your life. It seeks to spread. It'll say, "Oh, you should work with this medicine. You should be a healer." And I think this is really the call to heal self, and I think this is the call to learn, not to immediately go be in service. And so I'm really grateful that I heard that and I understood that and I interpreted that and went into learning first for a long time before deciding to agree to be in service when I was asked to be in service. I think these medicines share their desire to be shared through you readily. And it's so important to interpret that message properly and to get the learning and the training and the conditioning and the, the experience before deciding to share them. But it was a clear and obvious choice in my obsession with the visionary state, self-development, and dreams, where it was a clear alignment with the medicine work, and I love it. I love it. I hope this is helpful for you.